So this is the solar blanket from San Hima. Now, I must admit, I don't know much about San Hima, but I can tell you that VicOffroads has quite a lot of their products. They seem to reach in lots of the camping and forward driving type market stuff. Where they sit in the market, I believe, is probably towards that lower sort of budget end. And I think that's the kind of the market that you'll find VicOffroads operates in there as well. Apologies in advance as well. I'm a little bit crook again. Just a bit of an ongoing thing that I've got happening. So apologies if there's some coughing, sneezing, wheezing and possibly farting through the video. So anyway, out of the box. My initial spot is this. That's an Anderson plug sticking out the back. So what I'm seeing here is a bunch of accessories or additionals that come with this. So we've got a solar, supposedly MPPT controller. Now because that comes with the product, we will test that out as with the product, because I like to do like a complete out of the box experience. So if you bought one of these, what would it be like? It feels like a nice solid little unit, aluminium back, plastic on the front. Doesn't look too bad either. And that's a 20 amp unit, that one. It also has USB out, so it's USB A and USB C, so both say 5 volt out. These Anderson plugs or Anderson style plugs are already fitted to these. I would highly doubt that they are genuine. Got one obviously that's the input for our solar. Going to go to our solar panel, which is the lead that you see here. We've got the output. We've also got the option of having a load here as well. Because we have the solar controller here as part of the package, that means this is a complete package. Also, straight off the bat, one thing I might also suggest would be getting yourself an additional length of Anderson to Anderson. The reason I say that is it only comes with the one length, and again I'll put the specs on the screen. The reason I say that is you're going to obviously need to have your solar panel out in the sun. You're going to have a run of lead, whatever it may be, running over to your solar controller, which should be positioned as close to the battery as possible, and then you're going to need to go from this to the battery. If you've got this lead out running out to the solar panel, it'll plug into the input here, and then from here into your battery. It'd be nice to be able to have just that little bit of extra flexibility just on this end, even if it was just a couple of meters. You know what this is going to be perfect for? This is going to be perfect for my King's lithium setup that I've got there, just the battery in a box that I use for all my testing, and just any time I need a battery, I go and grab that King's out. It's got an Anderson input and output on the top, so I'll be able to plug this straight in. It is a 30 amp limit on that, so this being 20 amps, it'll go under that limit perfectly. There is a little bit of sun around, so I need to mow the lawn though, but I'm going to go and throw this out just to get some sun on it this afternoon, because I'm just really keen to see how this works. So solid connection here on the back, quite a solid connection. The material is, I don't know what it is, it feels just like a nylon or something. I accidentally left this out in the rain, I don't know, last week. Not heavy rain, although we did have some hail. So get this thing shut up. We're getting some hail as well. So much for that storm brightness, I thought it was going around. But it was a reasonable amount of rain, and then lots and lots of sun. So I had a chance to dry out, but I have packed it away and it is still damp, so I need to put it back out in the sun. Fancy that, putting the solar panel out in the sun. So this happily kept up with the job, sat out in the rain, no real effects other than being a little bit damp, worked like a trooper. So I just want to stop in and say, whilst it's not waterproof, still working like a champ. Alright, back to the video. No stitching issues. I've got to tell you, overall, seems to be good quality and well put together. I believe I'm going to like the colouring once we get inside this as well. This is a solar blanket, not a flexible or a folding solar panel. So I can say it's a little bit different to the others. This is a case of open it up, throw it on the ground, and just let it do its thing. Throw it on the car, get yourself a bit of an angle, something along those lines. Form factor and usage are the main considerations here if you're looking to go with a solar blanket like this San Hima one. Let's go and chuck this out in the sun and see what we can do with it. As far as deployment goes, it's just going to be undo the zip. Alright. Oh, it's actually quite thin. Thinner than I expected. I'm just going to get it plugged in. We'll froth over it in a minute, right? Now those are nice Anderson connectors too. They're going together really easy. I don't think they're genuine Anderson, but it is what it is. Now for convenience, I think this is probably about half charge. I can literally just throw the other end of the Anderson straight into this. Again, so if you've got a King's battery box, it is 5:15 in the afternoon. So low incidence angle of the sun. I am currently getting 8.2 amps, so that's nice just straight out of the box. That's a solid result, so 8 amps, 120 odd watts. More testing to come, put it through its paces. I just wanted to connect up once to make sure it was working, and it is. This is likely charging that battery around about the 14.4, 14.2, something along those lines volts, with the algorithm that's built in to the solar controller. I've made a bit of a rookie mistake in some of the testing here. I just want to see if you can pick what the error is along the way. Luckily, I picked up what was going on, and I'll tell you a bit more about it a little bit later in the video. So this is exactly, I guess, the use case scenario that I see for a solar blanket like this one. So I think this type of budget suits most of the market. You're probably going to fit, 80% of the market, bell curve, all that sort of stuff. Just to put this into perspective, I am currently also testing another solar panel, flexible solar panel, 200 watts. It's $900 something odd dollars, $950 odd dollars. So when you sort of talk 300 and something, 350 odd bucks, price up on the screen, probably with discount if I can get one down in the description, we're talking two different ends of the market. And being a YouTuber, one of the benefits is I get to play in that market and I get to get these things and I get it for free. And thanks very much for Stanley for sending these out to me for the purpose of review for free. Nice to interact with you again, mate. There's no point talking about solar panels and not suggesting that there is a vast scope of price out there when a lot of them are going to probably perform in this sort of range. Now, when I say this sort of range, with all my experience with multiple solar panels, probably 10, 12 different brands, let's call it 20, 30 different solar panels, I don't know. Lots of different solar panels, lots of different brands. I find that they all fall into this fairly narrow performance range. Now, based on the manufacturer's output, so if they say I'm going to get 100 watts out of the solar panel, what I actually get as a percentage of that rating. So typically I see it start around about that 70 something odd percent, and I have seen up to about 101, 102. The Blue Wheaties gave me 102% of their rated output, right? 120 gave me 124, something like that. Most are around 80%, right? Now I'm talking best I can get out of it, trying to point it at the sun, not having it overheated when I put out, and giving it the best chance to give me the performance that they say I'm going to get. Now around about 80% is good. If I get anything between 70 to 80, I consider it an average performing solar panel. If I can get anything around that 80%, then I say yes, this thing's worth your money, and it's worth looking at. Anything over that, and certainly over 90%, I would say over 85 to 90, up to 100%, yes, absolutely. But that's when you're going to start paying top dollar, right? Again, keep in mind what you're paying, what you expect to get. Now, this is a solar blanket, so it's different to your folding ones. Typically packs up smaller than your folding solar ones for the same rating or slightly larger rating. It's going to be heavier than your folding solar panels. And it's going to be a smidge more delicate. You're going to take a little bit more care with these just because you've got lots more folding going on than you do with the other panels. For me, for my use case scenario, I like to, and I mentioned this on all the solar panels, when I go camping, I don't chase the sun. I'm not out there getting me panels going, oh, the sun's moved a degree, I need to go and adjust it. No, I get it and I go out and I throw it on the ground, flat. It's either sitting flat on the caravan roof, sitting flat on the car roof, or it's sitting flat on the ground. That's how I roll with my solar panels. And as far as a solar blanket goes, that really suits the way I use solar panels. So what I'm going to do is just set it up, in a typical use case scenario. So I've got my Brass Monkey fridge over here. I think that's the 35 litre or something along those lines. I've got the King's battery box, which we've had running that fridge overnight, so it's getting down 40%, something like that. And then we've got our solar panel that we're just going to race out there and chuck out in the sun and just see how it goes for the afternoon for performance-wise. Now, this is what I would consider a budget-end setup and a perfectly good setup. I'm running like 5 of those Brass Monkey fridges. They're cheap as, and I just can't help but keep buying. They're on sale again at the moment. I'm doing everything I can not to go and buy another 30 litre compact, my favourite fridge. The King's battery box, so that was just a King's 100 amp hour lithium, 250 bucks, 260 bucks or something like that in their battery box. You know, I've got issues with that battery box, but for this use case scenario, it's perfect. 350 odd bucks solar blanket. If you've got to go and do your family Christmas thing this year, or you're going on the beach, or you're going camping, or you just want something to throw on the back of your four-wheel drive, then I think that these things are worth looking at. And that's all I'm saying, because it's 40 odd degrees today. It's filthy even just standing under here. I'm going to go and throw this out in the sun, run an Anderson lead over to our battery box. We'll connect it up, and we'll just see how she does. Now, I did mention earlier about it only coming with the one Anderson extension lead, and whilst that is true, Anderson lead extensions are dime a dozen, or just make your own. So I got me trusty 8 gauge that I made up, I don't know how many years ago. You can see the colours have all faded. I'm going to use that to get from the panel over to the solar controller. The other thing we've got is the brass monkey fridge sitting out here, half in the sun. The grapevine's going to cover that in a minute. And there's our King battery box with our solar controller there. So they all partially are in sun. It is a beautiful, clear day. The reason that brass monkey's out here is it's the first brass monkey I've ever had an issue with. And I just needed to confirm that I've actually got an issue with it. It was in the car, I went out, it wasn't on freeze, but it had froze some stuff on one side. I've had it running for a few weeks now and haven't had another issue. But technically, it's on punishment. It needs to prove itself to me before it goes back in that car. A perfect opportunity for me to leave all that out there in that sun, punish it, Australian conditions, that's what this thing's going to need to put up with. Same with the charger, the solar controller, get a little bit of sun, that's what it's going to have to put up with, so let's see how it goes. Right, so we're back here again. Now I have been hiding inside, it's been nearly 40 degrees heat out here. Keeping an eye on this just to see what sort of wattages we're getting. Now, the highest I've seen was 190 watts. We're down to about 140 at the moment. So that fridge there, no doubt, has been running pretty much at 100% duty cycle today. You know, sitting out here in the sun, even if it wasn't in the sun, you know, we're still mid-30s. Showing 4 degrees on one side, 0 on the other. And it does need a good clean out, but the water is nice and cold. So I just want to touch on the controller that comes with this. You can purchase a San Hima 20 amp MPPT controller, which is what this one is, for 60 bucks direct if you want to just buy that. Now that comes with the extension cable as well. So that is included with the 260 watt solar blanket kit that we've got. So you've got obviously 60 bucks worth of value there as well. So consider that when you're looking at your solar blankets and you're comparing prices to anything else. So it comes with an MPPT controller and it seems to be reasonably good. I mean, I can see it's making its adjustment as per the Victron shunt. So I can see it is tracking and making adjustments to the current and the voltage to try and find that maximum power point. As far as stats, we might as well knock some of those off here now. So advanced MPPT tech with tracking efficiency no less than 99.5% and impressive 98% conversion rate. Now this is just straight off the website. This is not my experience. This is just what they list. Automatic adaptive voltage, and it does say that it will select between 12 and 24 volt automatically. Nowhere on that is it telling me whether it's in 12 or 24 volt mode. I do need to add that that little MPPT controller gets really, 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 really hot. As much as I've got this sitting out in the sun, it was literally sitting on top of that box in the sun, you know, 30 something odd degree day. So we were punishing it and she's still working, she's still ticking. So a con from a don't go and grab the mongrel when it's been sitting out in a situation like that, but it's still working, so I suppose that's kind of a benefit as well, if you will. But just a heads up, try and put it somewhere cool, try and get it in the shade. You've got it sitting out in the sun, you know, full sun, and it's doing its thing, don't go and grab it because the bloody little thing gets hot. With the King's battery that we've got here, or some sort of similar scenario, which just has an Anderson input, this is 20 amps. The 50 amp plugs on the Kings are only wired up for 30 amps, so we can't push anything more through than that. So obviously 20 amps or the 10, 12 odd amps that we're seeing out of this pose no problem for this battery box. It's well within its safe sort of limits. So if you've got something like this with Anderson inputs, Anderson outputs, etc., this is a nice solution. So it's already got your solar controller. If you've got a box that has a solar controller built in, for example, literally all you would need to do is take the lead, the Anderson lead that's coming from the solar panel as part of the kit, which would be This one, don't plug it into the solar controller and just plug it straight into your battery box with its solar controller. So this one does do lead acid, AGM/gel, calcium and lipo. The control is fairly basic on this, but it's pretty straightforward. I didn't even look it up, if I'm honest. So you press and hold, that'll start that little LED there just flashing. Depending on the color of that LED, it's going to tell you what it's set up for. So if I press and hold, green is for lithium. Here we go, flashing. So white light for lead acid, AGM and gel is red, blue for calcium, or again black, or again back to green for lithium. So, and it does say LiPo 4. What I wanted to test, and I think we need to do this rather than just testing the solar panel, as much as we're doing the review of the solar panel, this came to me as a package, so I want to test it as a package. One that's listed on the website is a little bit different. I put a picture up there. It shows a USB output on the front, and only a USB-A output on the front. This one has a USB-A on the bottom, and it also has a little USB-C port as well. So we want to just plug into both of these and just see what happens. All right, so I just plugged into the USB-A, and that's working no problem. Don't expect magic out of it. It's not fast charge or anything like that. Okay, that sounds like a better click. No output on that. I did initially see that small output there on that USB-C, but we are getting nothing on that now. I'll report that back to VicOffroads and let them know about that. To that USB-A port. That is still working. So the good news is, even with your solar panels disconnected or no sunlight, so in the evening, you can be using this to charge your phones, etc. And we are putting 4 amps out into that fridge as well at the moment while it's cycling 4.5 amps. I've actually made a bit of a rookie mistake here. We're currently seeing, 70 watts going in, and we're going, oh look, we're getting 70 watts out of the panel, etc, etc. What I've forgotten is that I've actually been running this fridge the whole day. Now when that runs, that pulls around about 60 watts. I'm going to disconnect that, and straight away we go up to 137. Now, when I checked this earlier during the day and saw the 190 watts coming out of that solar panel, that was 190 watts going into the shunt, which means if this fridge was cycling when we were seeing that, pulling at 60 odd watts, it's closer to 250 watts that we're seeing out of this panel. We need to obviously rectify that testing issue. Sitting 134 watts, with the lower sun, 10 amps going into our battery. So we need to obviously do some testing without the fridge connected there as well. I think we can beat that 200 watts, and I think we can do better than that 70%. What I forgot was that I was actually testing and measuring through the shunt in the battery rather than doing the measuring via the solar controller. This solar controller that comes with this doesn't have Bluetooth. Normally when I do my panel testing, I'm testing it through a Victron solar controller. So I can actually measure specifically the output that's coming from that solar panel is going directly into that solar controller, and I'm getting a direct reading of the panel. What I was doing in this instance was, because we don't have an app or any way to measure what's going in and out of that controller, I was actually relying on the Victron shunt that I've built into that battery box. So what that means is the solar panel is putting in power, but whilst I had the fridge connected, the fridge is taking power. So what we're actually seeing, or the rating that I was looking at, was actually a balance of those two figures. So say the solar panel was putting in 100 watts and the fridge was taking out 50 watts, then it would actually show that we only had 50 watts going into the battery. And that was the rating that I was using for the solar panel. Give me a second and we'll talk about what I've actually seen coming out of the solar panel. It's a much better result, trust me. Now, as far as the San Hima solar blankets go, they do come in 160 watt, 260 watt and 360 watt folding combination. All of them appear to have the same MPPT controller with them as a package. So I have to assume that they're going to come with the cable as well. It's just something I wanted to touch on as far as specs. It says groundbreaking HPBC. Now our HPBC cells shift the metal conducts, so there's going to be the bus bars, to the back of the panels, which allows for additional cooling. It says eliminate shading to capture more sunlight and achieve 24% conversion efficiency. So that's interesting. Thus our ETFE coating, so whilst non-stick self-cleaning boosts light transmission for increased output. I don't know about I don't know about self-cleaning. I don't think I've ever seen a panel that has been self-cleaning. That'd be nice. Now, as far as specs in relation to the panel, so in its outright position, we're 2.4 metres long by 96 centimetres, so 96 across, and then 5mm thickness. So I was right, it is quite small. Folded down, it's 49 by 43 centimetres, so 50 centimetres squared, half a metre squared basically, and then 75mm thickness. Backing material is nylon as expected. 260 watts output, open circuit, so 28 volt. That's why it can do, and I wanted to check that because it does say that this is 1224 as far as a controller goes, and there would be an incompatibility issue there if it was a 12 volt panel outputting 18 volts and then trying to charge 24 volt batteries from it. The good news is there, 28 volt open circuit, it's going to work well with this controller and doing your 24 volt. Maximum current out is 12.3, 7.9 kilos. Yeah, I suppose that feels about right. Need again to test the output in better conditions, and we'll see what we can do tomorrow, and we'll do this before I put any review out. I hate nothing more when people go and do solar panel videos and they go, you know, and they take it out of the box and they walk it out in their backyard or their front yard and they throw it out and go, the solar conditions aren't that great today and we can't get solar and it's shade or it's raining, but you know, here's your review. Now, I know as YouTubers, we want to get the video out. We want to be Johnny on the spot. We want to be the first bloke, you know, we want to be the first bloke with the information out there so everybody comes and watches our videos. But what is more important to me isn't about being first, it's about being right and giving you the information. Whilst this is a review, I don't care whether you buy these or not. I don't care whether you go and spend your money with VicOffroads. All I can tell you is that my experience with VicOffroads has been positive. And then if yours is going to be the same, you'd be happy. But my job here isn't to try and influence you to go and buy things or not buy things one way or the other. It's just literally to share the information with you. And if you don't want to be influenced by something, don't be influenced by something. It's that easy. It is that easy. Look, I want to be like a mate coming up to you going, how you going? Got one of these San Hima solar panels. Oh yeah, how'd you find it? Yeah mate, it was good. That's the experience I want you to have on this channel, right? Pretty clear day, so we should be able to check our maximum output without the fridge being connected. The battery's nice and low, 30%. I just want to check some shading as well. These panels, again, these panels are just compared to the old one that I've got in the shed, and I will go and grab that actually. These panels are just super light. Nice, okay, 195 watts. So the sun's getting close to being, you know, directly above, still a little bit away, so we're not at perfect conditions yet. 194 watts, 15 amps coming out of this thing and going into our battery. Now again, I reckon we can do better than that. What we might do though now, while we're waiting on the sun condition to improve and see what our maximum output is going to be, is I'm going to just try a little bit of shading, throw some stuff on top of this, and just see what difference that makes to what we're actually getting out of the battery right now. My use case scenario is take it camping, throw it out like this. I'm not going to chase the sun. If I start to get some shade on it, I'll go and get it and I'll just drag it across the dirt and I'll just leave it where it is. So I guess this is probably similar to the sort of shade that I would anticipate getting on it before I would go and pick it up and drag it. So from the current 180 to 190 watts that we're seeing on it at the moment, just chuck it on one panel. All right, so we've dropped about 40 watts, we're down to 146. Now I would anticipate that that would probably be the same regardless of which one of those panels that I put it on. I think the sun conditions are improving. We're still at 160 watts. It's a small amount of shading, granted, but if it was going to impact it, that's big enough to do that. Let's just shade the two on the end. I'm just curious to see if we can see how these are wired up. So we've got two of those panels partially covered. Still getting 145 watts. That's doing really, really well. All right, this might change things. We're going to swing this around and cover two side by side. Now, whilst those panels aren't completely covered, all right, and still 94 watts, this panel is quite impressing me with its shade tolerance. We're putting out 100 watts with that sort of shading on it. I'm pretty impressed with that. Let's do 4. Now, if this doesn't kill it, wow. No, really, wow. Still doing 100 watts. Wow. Like I'm dying in the arse here. But I've got to tell you, this thing is putting a smile on my face. This is very impressive. Up to this stage, it was, for me, Chinese solar panel with good performance. Now, this has just gone straight up. 190 watts out of a 260 watt rated panel means that we are around about 70% of the manufacturer's suggested rating. Now, I think we're going to improve that once the sun comes over. But straight away, that puts it as an average performing panel. I think that's going to improve as the day goes on, and then we get better conditions. Per earlier, 190 was around about what we're seeing. I've left the Victron running, and just to try and get some sort of history on it. It was 223 watts was the maximum output that we've seen from this, just sitting out in the backyard. So I'm going to put the 223 watts versus the 260 to give us our rating. That's definitely going to come up over that 80%, I believe, which is going to make me much, much more impressed with this unit versus just being sitting around at that 70%. Now, granted, laying flat with sun directly above is about as good as you get as far as chasing the sun with a solar blanket. So that's all but ideal conditions. So if I can get this to put out sort of around that 200 watts, 190 to 220 watts, I'm going to say I'm pretty happy with that. So there you go. Overall positive experience for VicOffroads and the San Hima 260 watt solar blanket with MPPT controller. It's been my first dealings with anything San Hima. They do your solar stuff, your battery stuff, and they obviously do a whole bunch of different camping stuff, including rooftop tents. Now, as far as I'm aware, I think they're Chinese made as well. Do like to stick with Australian made if I can. And then obviously, if we're using an Australian supplier that is VicOffroads, that gives me a bit more of a warm and fuzzy feeling inside, rather than just buying direct from China. So that's been the San Hima 260 watt solar blanket from VicOffroads. I think we might be dealing with VicOffroads a little bit more in the future. And good guys to deal with, and I've been happy with the experience overall and of course the products. So there you go. Thanks very much for stopping by, and I'll catch you on the next one.